of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Arsenal. Come on, you Gunners. Arsenal. Chronicles of a Gooner.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast with me, your host, Harry Symeou. I'm delighted to say that joining me is my good friend, my colleague. Unfortunately, he supports the wrong team, but it's the brilliant Kweku Afari. Kweku, welcome to the pod, mate. I think this is the first time you've been on, which is mad.
First time I jumped on. Obviously, we do a show on TalkSport 2 together on Fridays. But yeah, it's the first time I'm jumping on Chronicles of a Gooner. I feel like I'm in enemy territory. I get a very neutral Harry on Friday at TalkSport. So let's see what goes on here.
Oh, you're being a bit neutral. Come on, no way, not neutral. Every now and again, the mask slips, doesn't it? When I'm trying to discuss something, and then I'm like, no, good, they lost. Depending on who it is. Kweku, good to see you, mate. Because we've got a massive game coming up this weekend. Of course, Arsenal travelling to Stamford Bridge for what feels like a really big game in a lot of ways. Obviously, it's 1 versus 2 in the Premier League, which makes it a big game by default. But also, you know, for Chelsea, it's an opportunity, I think, to show everybody that actually, you know what, you're in the mix and you should be considered in the mix for the Premier League title. Whether you, as a Chelsea fan, think that's maybe premature or not, we'll get into that. But for Arsenal, it's also a big opportunity to extend the lead at the top, extend the lead over Chelsea, and maybe deliver a bit of a gut punch to some of the other clubs in the Premier League that are looking at us right now and hoping that we slip up. Let's start off with your opinion on Arsenal. I'm really keen to get this. Like, I know we've had many discussions before, but I'm keen for the listeners to get an understanding of where you're at on the Gunners. Because I always think when we talk about Arsenal, we talk about them from within a bubble, right? And at times, I think it's important that you step outside that bubble and you get a feel for what the consensus is beyond that. So as a Chelsea man, as a broadcaster, as someone who knows his football, what's your take on Arsenal right now? Do you rate them? Where do you think they're at?
Yeah, this Arsenal team are very, very impressive. And I don't know how it started and I don't know where it's come from, but Arsenal quickly become, in my opinion, if I'm being fair, the most hated team in the Premier League. In terms of people's criticisms of Arsenal, people's ire towards Arsenal. And I think maybe previously it's been warranted. I think a lot of people's issues are with Arsenal fans as opposed to the team itself. But if you're criticizing the team this season, the actual team that goes out on the pitch and delivers week in, week out, then you are being completely unfair. This is a dominant side. This is a side that can do everything, can beat you in a multitude of ways. The criticism for Arsenal was, oh yeah, defensively they're great, but they're really, really boring. The last 2 games have showed you that this Arsenal team aren't boring. Absolutely battered Bayern Munich midweek, a great Bayern Munich team, a Bayern Munich team that people calling the best team in the world until they rocked up to the Emirates and got their asses handed to them. And then you look at what they did at or against Spurs on the weekend, the North London derby that is always heated, is in my opinion the best derby in England. And again, Arsenal took care of business in a decisive and emphatic manner. This is the best Arsenal team I've seen since the Invincibles. This is an Arsenal team that not just the starting 11 that go out on the pitch, but the depth as well. And we saw that in midweek against Bayern Munich. The substitutions, you bring Calafiori and Noni Madueke off the bench and they combine for the goal. That just shows you where Arsenal are at. And in terms of the Premier League, they are by far and away the best team in this league. And I think the performance in Europe has alerted most football fans to the fact that this might be the best team in the world. And so my opinions on Arsenal, despite the fact that I hate saying it, I hate admitting it, this is the best team in the Premier League. And I think this is possibly the best team in Europe as things currently stand.
It certainly felt like that victory in midweek kind of put Arsenal into the conversation of best teams in Europe, right? We're sitting top of the Champions League phase. And I know that's not always the best indicator because at the end of the day, you know, it depends who gets drawn against, you know, are your tougher games at home or away from home? There's an element of fortune that comes about with the draw. But I think for Arsenal going into that game with Bayern Munich, it was about making a statement. It was about continuing that momentum. And there was this huge debate going into it. Do we take it seriously or do we rest people with one eye on Chelsea at the weekend? Momentum's important, isn't it? You've experienced your side winning multiple trophies. You've experienced your side being very successful over the last 20 years or so. There is a lot to be said, isn't there, for maintaining those standards and not just allowing it to fall off a cliff because you're prioritizing one game over another, because you can very quickly fall out of the rhythm, end up losing that game that you were saving everything back for, and end up looking quite silly, can't you?
Yeah, you can. You've got to just, with the depth that you've got, you can rotate to an extent and still put out a really strong 11. And things that people aren't talking about this season is that Arsenal suffered injuries to all of their major players. Like Saka's missed time through injury, Odegaard's missed time through injury, Gabriel's currently out, Saliba's missed time. You're without Gyökeres and Havertz, and you haven't blinked. This is an Arsenal team that continues to roll on despite injuries to key players. And I think that's the difference in the mentality shift for Arsenal this season. Last season, or season previous to that, even I think back to the 22-23 season, where Arsenal were on 50 points after 19 games, on course to get 100 points. Obviously, the World Cup happens during that season, and things kind of go awry after that. Gabriel Jesus gets injured. And at the back end of the season, Saliba got injured, and that's where it really fell apart. And that was the excuse for Arsenal, right? And we saw it last season. Saka missed time through injury, and that's when I really felt that Arsenal's kind of title charge dissipated. But I look at it this season, and not only is the team not using excuses, the fans aren't either. If you talk to Arsenal fans, they are, even when you have injuries, they're not using that as an excuse. You still expect to win games. And I do think that shift is important. And people will talk about the dissipated effect that fans have on football clubs. I disagree with that. I think fans have a huge part to play. The atmosphere that you create in the stadium, the feeling that you garner amongst fans. And when you talk to any Arsenal fan, they are walking with their chest out, their chin up, and they're confident going into every game. And also a key thing for Arsenal fans as well is that they're not getting ahead of themselves. It's the media who's getting ahead of themselves. It's the media saying, oh, this is Arsenal's league to lose. And I think that's because they want to apply some pressure. Because like I say, Arsenal are the most hated team in the country right now. But if you talk to Arsenal fans and you see the way the team's playing, it's one game at a time. And that game against Bayern Munich, like you say, in terms of building momentum, was an example of that. It was a case of not looking too far ahead, not looking to the Chelsea game, looking to the game that's right in front of you right now. And that's Bayern Munich, a team that everyone's saying is the best team in the world. Win that game, then we'll think about Sunday afternoon. And that's important. And like you say, I've seen my team win titles and build momentum throughout seasons, and there are no games off. There's no case of, oh, it's the Champions League, so we're going to rest players. You fight to be in the Champions League. So play your best team, or play a strong team in the Champions League. And that's what Arsenal did. And I can't speak highly enough of this Arsenal team, man. Like, again, I'm a Chelsea fan, but in terms of just looking at the team objectively, they are so strong. They can do it in different ways. And yeah, I'm very nervous heading into the game on the weekend.
Good. I'm glad you're feeling that way, because I'm feeling that way too. But just, yeah, you're absolutely right with everything you said there. I couldn't agree more. You know, Arsenal feel like they're in a great place. I feel like, and I was talking about this with David Hillier at the game on Wednesday night. And if you want, by the way, a full review of the Arsenal Bayern Munich game, you can find it. It's the last podcast on your feed. You can find it on our YouTube channel, and you can find it on Patreon as well, completely ad-free, of course. But we was talking about Arsenal maybe not feeling like they need to constantly look over their shoulder right now, like being so comfortable in their own skin and believing that they've got what it takes. And that comes from the strength in depth, doesn't it, in a lot of ways? Because in the past, as you mentioned, you've lost a certain player and it's completely derailed you. Having that knowledge that and that belief that you can lose 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, a few weeks ago, we had 8 players out. To look at that and go, we're still fine. That really does breed a confidence within the camp, doesn't it?
And also, Harry, sorry to interrupt you. And I think we're seeing it right now. When you build something, it's completely different to inheriting something. And I'm using that in relation to Arsenal and Liverpool, right? There was points last season where people were arguing that Arne Slot's a better manager than Mikel Arteta. And I was never really on that train, because I was like, again, Arne Slot did a great job last season, but he inherited Van Dijk, who's arguably the greatest centre-back in Premier League history. Mo Salah, who has an argument for being the greatest player in Premier League history. But that was a season. That was an isolated season. What Arteta has done is that he's built this. Everyone, barring Bukayo Saka, has been bought by Mikel Arteta for a purpose. And so the floor for Arsenal is not is not below second. And that's what we've seen for the last 3 seasons. Last season was a bad season. You finished second. You got to the Champions League semi-final. Because he's built it, there is a unified goal and a unified thought process when you're going into games. Everyone knows their responsibility. And that includes fans. Fans know what to expect. When you talk to Arsenal fans, they are the most informed out of any fans and City fans in the Premier League in terms of knowing their team, because they know their manager. And that you can't underestimate that when you're going into games. Arsenal fans know what to expect. And you can talk about the negative football that people kind of want to highlight, or the more pragmatic football, people want to highlight. But the fact that Arsenal can employ that style of football and fans at the Emirates are on board with it speaks to what Arteta has built. And with that, I think it's important to and that's what I'm trying to think of as a Chelsea fan when I get frustrated with Enzo Maresca and we lose a couple of games. When somebody builds something, the foundations are so much more solid. And that's what we're seeing with Arsenal. They've got more solid foundations than anybody. It could have been easy for Arsenal after you drew against Sunderland to come back off the international break and have a wobble. No, straight back to it, because the foundations are more solid than any other team in the Premier League.
No, I completely agree. And it's about, you're right in that point. The point I really liked, it was all great, but the bit I really liked was when you said, the fans know what this team is. And I've really felt that shift this season when I've been at Emirates Stadium, when maybe it's not going our way. I mean, we don't go behind much at home, I have to say, but when it's half an hour in and we haven't broken down the opposition yet, there's almost a comfort that you feel like everybody's looking at it and going, okay, it hasn't happened yet, but it will. And there's no need to panic. And in the past, there would have been that anxiety in the stands that at times would have translated onto the pitch, and you'd have players rushing things and trying to go more direct when that wasn't the right thing to do. And I think for me, and I'm interested to get your take on this. The most special thing about this Arsenal team right now is that they've got so many faces. They can play in different ways and they can do different things. Last night, because we're recording this on Thursday, last night they started the game against Bayern. Bayern had a fair amount of the ball. And you looked at it and you went, right, Arsenal playing through this press, it's not really happening. It's not really working. So do you know what? They had the in-game intelligence, the players. I'm sure there was instruction passed over from the manager as well on the side, but they had the presence of mind to go, let's not be stubborn, okay? We like to play through the lines normally, but today is not a game for that. So let's play over the top of them. And that's exactly what Arsenal did. You think about the sort of the Martinelli goal, it was playing over the top. Okay, the game's stretched at that point. You're 2-1 up. But you think about some of the other big moments Arsenal created in that game. It was when Bayern came onto them and David Raya, who's got a great passing range, or someone else at the back went, I'm not going to try and play through you. It's stupid. It's crazy. Why do that? I'm going to clip it over the top of you. We're going to win a flick on. We're going to send someone from wide into a central area to win a flick on, because no one's going to track him or mark him when he's doing that. And it's just having that variety of sort of ways of attack that I think is what makes Arsenal such a good side right now. From a Chelsea point of view, Kweku, it's been a good time for you guys as well, really. The victory over Barcelona was impressive. I did sit and watch that game. I thought, we're playing them on Sunday, I better sit down and take that one in. I'm going to sound like a bit of well, you're not going to like this, basically. I thought that Barcelona were rubbish. I thought they were poor. And I can't decide how much of what I saw the other night was down to Chelsea's brilliance and how much of it was down to Barcelona not being at the races. What was your kind of assessment of that midweek performance?
I think there's a bit of both. In terms of Chelsea, we did everything right, barring the chance we gave up to Ferran Torres at the beginning of the game. We were immaculate. We were perfect. The game plan was executed to perfection from the team, and Maresca set his team out in the most ideal fashion to get the result against a Barcelona team that do play a very high line. And I don't want to take anything away from that for Chelsea, because that was one of our best performances under Maresca this season. And Maresca, who's shown that in big games, he's very flexible, keeps the opposition guessing, and can get the result. Think about the Club World Cup final. Think about the game again. I don't know how well this win has aged because Liverpool are so poor, but the win against Liverpool at Stamford Bridge, the win against Barcelona in midweek, it's Maresca showed that when he comes up against the big boys and he's got time to game plan, he normally executes it, and Chelsea normally get a result. Having said that, Barcelona were terrible. And I will never, I'm 32 years old. I've watched enough good football to elevate people who don't deserve to be elevated, or to gaslight myself to saying, oh, this was not a great Barcelona side. I was there in 09 in the stadium when Iniesta scored that goal. That's a Barcelona side. I was there in 2005 when Ronaldinho scored that toe punt. That's a great Barcelona side. I'm so sorry. Araujo would not touch those sides. Araujo wouldn't touch the B teams of those Barcelona sides. And so and that was no Pedri and there was no Gavi. So I am acutely aware that recently, when English teams come up against Spanish teams in European competitions, it's been one-sided because the physicality of the Premier League is so imposing that these other teams just can't cope. And I talk about physicality of the Premier League. That's where Arsenal have taken it. You talked about this on TalkSport too. The Premier League is now at a place where maybe we're not getting the tick-tack, scintillating football that we got when Pep first got here, and everyone was trying to copy that style of football playing out the back. But what we have got is a rugged, physical league that Arteta kind of ushered in with this Arsenal team. If you look at narratives are hilarious, right? When you brought in Calafiori last summer, everyone's like, why is Arteta playing him out of position? Why are they playing him left back? He's a centre back. We saw him do that for Italy. Nah. You want the most physical and the biggest team out there, and he can also play football. Jurriën Timber's the man that has also played centre back in his career. Nah, he's going to be one of the best right backs in the league. And the physicality of the Premier League means that when Chelsea play against a team like Barcelona, it's a mismatch. It was men against boys. Every tackle in there first, every duel we won. And that's the worry I have going into this game. We could do that against Barcelona because, let's be honest, they weren't great. They weren't physical enough. Arsenal are the most physical team in the Premier League, as well as being the best team in the Premier League. They really remind me of the Jose Mourinho 04-05 Chelsea team in the way that physically imposing, dominating, don't go behind. When they score a goal, you know it's game over. And also doing it without a prolific striker. Everyone talks about how great Didier Drogba is, but 04-05 and 05-06, he wasn't that Didier Drogba. We start that game in the Champions League against Barcelona in the second leg with Ida Johnson and Mateo Kezman. Like, we didn't have a certified gunman up top. And that's Arsenal this season. If you think about Mourinho started there, obviously Gyökeres is new summer signing. I think Havertz is actually Mikel Arteta's preferred choice. You're doing all this without a striker, but what you have got are wingers that know their role. You've got defenders that want to defend. And for my money, you've got the best midfield in the league. And I think Eze's made it even better. So, sorry, it's a long way of going around and answering the question about Barcelona. But I think the key in that game was physicality. And I think that's what Arsenal do really well. And I think that's what Chelsea are going to have to watch out for on the weekend.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that Arsenal are one of those teams that do everything to kind of earn the right to play before they play. And it sounds like one of those basic, archaic footballing kind of ideologies, but it really is sort of something that I think surmises what Arsenal are these days. On Chelsea, I don't know what to expect from them because I feel like Chelsea can be very hit and miss. There are times when I watch Chelsea and I think, brilliant, great attacking play, fantastic football, moving the ball through the lines with such fluency and brilliance. And there are other times where I watch Chelsea and I think they've got no idea. And they can be a little bit predictable. The patterns can become a little bit obvious. And I think that sometimes against the low block, they look like a side that are struggling to find that bit of magic. Now, overall, I think Enzo Maresca's done a really good job, by the way. And I know that there are Chelsea fans even out there that are not 100% sold on him. Just in terms of that inconsistency with Chelsea. And I suppose maybe I sound a bit silly talking about inconsistency when they're second in the league, but do you still have that feeling that there is that just that inability to make sure that the level's maintained at all times? Can Chelsea be considered in the title race with that hanging over them, or do they need to prove to people that they can go a little bit longer with these sort of results and this sort of positive nature?
I think a team that's going to win the title doesn't lose against Sunderland at home, doesn't lose against Brighton at home in the manner, doesn't lose against, I know Man United, they're on a bit of a resurgence. They've kind of dipped again now. But when Chelsea lost against Man United, United were on their knees. United were terrible. And Chelsea absolutely, threw it away in the first 10 minutes of that game. Good teams that are going to win the league don't lose those type of games. But what I will say is in the last maybe 8 or 9 games, I've started to see a little bit more consistency. And this is a young team. I always bring it up, but last season it was the youngest team in Premier League history. This year it's the youngest team in the Premier League and the Champions League. And so there are going to be those moments in games where we don't manage the situation. And that football situational, especially now, where you maybe break it down into 15 minutes, 6 to 15 minutes, right? First 15 minutes, second 15 minutes, 15 minutes before halftime, and then so on and so forth throughout. And Chelsea aren't the best at managing those portions of games. But in terms of top level talent, I think we're up there with anybody. I think barring Arsenal, if you were to do a combined 11 of Chelsea and any other team, Chelsea get more players in there than the other team. I think you look at Reece James, who's now fit and staying fit. I think he's one of the best right backs in the league and one of the best right backs in the world on his day. I look at Cucurella, who, again, let's not forget how he entered or how he started life as a Chelsea player. Much maligned. We've seen him pocket Lamine Yamal. Well, I've seen him pocket Mo Salah. I hopefully this weekend we'll see him pocket Bukayo Saka. It remains to be seen.
Steady on. Getting a bit carried away.
He's one of the best left backs in the world, and I think since we were both at the Euros, we saw kind of the emergence of it, and I think he's taken it on from there. I look at the midfield: Enzo Fernandez, World Cup winner, playing his best football in a Chelsea shirt. Caicedo, one of the best midfielders in the world. We're doing this without Cole Palmer, who's one of the best players in the world, and then on the wing, we've got a star boy who is. Man, he's changing lives in Southwest London. And Esteval is the truth. He's everything that we hoped. He's everything that was promised. When I'm sitting there listening to Tim Vickery come on TalkSport or Sky Sports talking about this kid that's being compared to Messi in Brazil, I'm thinking, yeah, but we never see these kind of kids come to the Premier League. Vinicius went to La Liga. Neymar went to La Liga. Endrick went to La Liga. Is he really going to come here and do the business? It's early. We're only in November. But what I've seen so far is special. And so when you've got a collective of players whose top level is that of some of the best players in the world, you've always got a chance. Where Chelsea fall down a little bit is in the bits where you need to be resolute, the centre-backs, the goalkeeper. And I think Robert Sanchez is having a good season under the radar. Barring the Man United game, he's been very good. I think we saw midweek Chalobah and Fofana look good. But can you rely on them week in, week out like you can rely on Raya, Gabriel and Saliba? That's the question and that's the problem. The answer to that question is no. And so because of that, Chelsea probably can't reach a level of consistency to win the league, but we can reach a level where we can give any team in the league, any team in the world a difficult day. We saw it against Liverpool this season. We saw it against PSG in the Club World Cup final, saw it against Barcelona midweek, and hopefully, as a Chelsea fan, we see it against Arsenal on the weekend.
Hopefully not. But can you just clarify what happened to Cole Palmer, by the way? Because I read some reports about how he sustained this latest injury. I don't want to fall for some gag on social media. How did he pick up this injury?
So, there's a lot of stories going around. I think there's a lot of Chelsea are trying to protect the player. It's unconfirmed, and I don't want to speculate. Apparently, he was messing around at home and he broke his toe. I don't know. I don't know the specificities of the situation. It's never a good look, though. Do you know what I mean? You're coming back from a groin injury, and you hope that they're wrapped up in cotton wool. It is what it is. I'd love to have him for this game. I don't think he's ever played against Arsenal for Chelsea. He always seems to miss this one.
Is that right?
Yeah, I don't think he's played. I can't. I need to go back and think about it. But I remember when you spanked us at the Emirates a few years ago, he didn't play in that game. For some reason, I think he's not played against you lot, but I need to check it. But yeah, Cole Palmer is a player that's a huge miss for us. He's one of the best players in the world. But no excuses. And this is what I've really liked about Premier League this season. I mentioned about Arsenal. Excuses are not being accepted. It's not no one's complaining about injuries and being listened to. If I hear a football fan talk about injuries, I tell them to shut up because everyone's got it. Everyone's got it. The team that's top of the league has had it. Chelsea have had it in terms of our best player and our best centre back not really playing the season at all. City have had it. Liverpool have had it. It's not an excuse. This is the world we live in. There's so much football. Players are going to get injured. It's about building a squad like Arsenal have done. And so I know in my head, if we don't win the game, I'll be thinking, oh, what would it look like without a Cole Palmer? With Cole Palmer, what would have happened if he didn't stub his toe? But ultimately, Chelsea got the job to do against Arsenal. And Harry, I can't lie. I was sitting there watching the Bayern Munich game. Obviously, hate watching. What I saw scared me. And I've made peace with the fact that I think you're going to win the league. And I maybe called it a little bit early. I called it 3 or 4 weeks ago. I said the league's done. Arsenal winning it. I think it's after City lost against Villa and you beat Palace, I said it's done. But what's scaring me now about Arsenal is that you might go and do something that the Invincibles didn't do, and that's win the Champions League. And Harry, I can't lie to you. That's it's giving me sleepless nights because you know how many Arsenal fans I work with personally. It won't be pleasant viewing for me.
No, it won't be. It won't be. It's a bit like, I know how you feel, because I remember when Tottenham got to the Champions League final. Like, I've never felt so sick in my life at the prospect of them potentially winning that. And we had
question.
Yeah, go on.
In that situation, obviously you played against us in Baku in the Europa League final, and they played against Liverpool. Would you rather Arsenal lost and Spurs lost, or Arsenal won and Spurs win?
I think because it was the Europa League, I would have rathered that Arsenal lost and Spurs lost rather than Arsenal won and Spurs won, because they would have forever mocked us at the fact that they'd won Europe's premier competition. Meanwhile, we were playing in the second rate one. So no, I absolutely wanted them to lose. I remember we sort of all got together, a bunch of Arsenal fans, to watch it, and around my dad's house, and we put my dad was playing You'll Never Walk Alone out of the stereo, and all sorts. We'd all turned Liverpool for the day. It was unbelievable, and that is something that we'd be so far away from doing under any other circumstances. But it had to happen. It had to happen. Let's get some predictions then for the game. I really don't know how to call this one. I think for me, this is a game, Kweku, that I'm going into thinking just don't get beat. Now, there'll be some people that go, no, Arsenal's mentality should be go out and win. You can beat anyone on your day, etc., etc. I kind of get that to a degree. But I think the way that the results have shaped up in recent weeks, the fact that we've played a North London derby off the back of an international break where players are coming back not quite at 100%, the fact that, we've got lots of options, but some of them are really struggling for fitness because they've only just returned. And then we played Bayern in midweek, and then we've got Chelsea, and then we've got another midweek game on Wednesday against Brentford before going away to Villa, which is another tricky game, given their recent sort of resurgence. There is a part of me that looks at Sunday's game and says, just don't get beat. And as long as that is the case, I'm not going to be ecstatic with a draw, but I think I'll be content with it, if that makes sense. So for that reason, I'm finding it quite difficult to call. I think it is going to be a draw. If I had to bet on the outcome, I think it will be a draw. I think the Stamford Bridge advantage, the extra day rest that you guys have had, the good form that you're in, I feel like it'd almost be disrespectful for me to sit here and say, no, Arsenal are going to win this at a canter. I don't see it panning out that way. If it does, happy days, but I think a draw is probably the most likely outcome as far as I can see.
See, I had that before I watched the game against Bayern. I said, this game's got draw written all over it.
The Bayern win scared you, basically.
Honestly, Harry, I just saw, do you know when you just have a moment of realization and you're sitting there and you're just like, I am just watching the best team in Europe right now. Again, things change, right? PSG didn't look like anything in the group stages of the Champions League last year, and then went on to win everything and considered one of the best teams in recent history. I just look at Arsenal and I look at how you can take a game away from teams within a 10-minute spell. And I had draw before the game against Bayern. I'm never going to come in here and predict a Chelsea loss, so I'll stick with draw. But I am going to this game really nervous, Harry. And you've seen so many different Arsenal teams. You've seen the teams that finished third for the last 3 years in a row. From your point of view, is this, because there's an argument being made by rivals, and again, I'm not here to listen to it, that the reason why Arsenal look so good this season is because everyone else has dropped off. Liverpool have lost 7 games, City aren't the same team. But then I looked at last season, and I was like, well, Arsenal dropped off and City fell off as well. And so in years where teams win leagues, people are good, people are not. In your opinion, is this Arsenal team the best team you've seen since the Invincibles?
Overall, yes. It's not the best attacking team I've seen since the Invincibles, because we had some brilliant teams with Fabregas, Nasri, Van Persie. We've had some really good, and obviously Thierry Henry stayed beyond the Invincibles. So we've had a lot of really good attacking players. But I think overall, in terms of the all-round package, and basically based on what football is today, I think, it probably is the best collective. It's certainly the best squad in terms of the depth and stuff. I get what you like. I get the argument that some people are making. Other teams have dropped off, etc., etc. But you're absolutely right to highlight that we could just say that for last season, and in other seasons where teams have sort of. I think what you need to do is, I think you need to look at the results, and I think if you've played 12 in the league as we have, won 9, drawn 2, lost just 1, when you consider some of the fixtures, you know, we've been to Old Trafford, we've been to Newcastle, we've been to Anfield, we've played City, we're playing Chelsea at the weekend, we've played a North London derby. When you factor all of that in with the injury problems and issues that we've had, and I know we've got the squad to cope with it now, but that doesn't mean they don't impact you in some way. To have got through this first phase, if you like, of the season at this with this kind of points tally on the board. And there's other things as well. Like people often say, you know, Arsenal are boring. Well, we've scored 24 league goals in 12 games. So we average 2 goals a game. When did that become boring? You know, on top of that, we've only conceded 6, you know, which is just a remarkable number. We're conceding half a goal per game on average at the moment, which is just brilliant. So I think, yeah, this is probably the best collective that we've seen since then. It feels like the mood has changed. It feels like the mood has shifted. It feels like there's a confidence, there's a belief. It feels like we don't necessarily need to look over our own shoulders anymore, because we're so good that if we just continue doing our job, no one's going to catch us. That's how it feels at this moment in time. But it is still early. I said it on the Bayern review show. It's not even December yet. And for that reason, you need to stay cautious. You need to stay switched on. But yeah, I've got every reason to believe that this could be the year that, you know, things finally click for us. Yeah, for sure.
I'm inclined to agree with you. I think this is the year for Arsenal, and I think history will look back on this team favorably. I think in the moment where people are just so kind of intoxicated with hate for Arsenal, it's hard to appreciate it. But when you go on to achieve the things that I think you will achieve, history will look back on it fondly enough. Again, I keep on comparing it to Chelsea, but 04-05 Chelsea team, there was an element of this team's ruining the league. This is bad for English football, because they were so defensively resolute and it was so dominant. But I think this will be a good thing.
God, I was just going to say, on that Chelsea team, like if I try and think back to how I saw them, it wasn't really for me the way that they played. I think what unnerved people a little bit. Now, obviously the horse has bolted since, right? And you've seen other clubs do it. I think it was the fact that Roman Abramovich came in and did what he did, because that was, I know Blackburn had done it in the 90s, but not to that degree, not to that scale. I think that's what created that let's hope that Chelsea mess everything up attitude among every other football fan. There was a jealousy. There was a, you know, hold on a minute. How comes they've come from nowhere and they can get the world's best players? Like, you got people like Hernan Crespo turning up, players that I idolized as a kid. And I'm like, how the hell has he ended up there? And Arjen Robben and all this. I think that was it at the time, Kweku. I think that's what it was. I don't necessarily think there was too much of an issue with your style of play. I think it was, here come Chelsea out of nowhere, huge investment. Now, since then, City have done it for years. Newcastle are trying to do it, but aren't able to because of the PSR rules. I'm not saying Arsenal don't spend money, by the way. I'm not saying that for a second. I think just the game's changed and gone in a different direction, which makes it more the kind of norm, actually, to go and spend big money. Whereas then it was like, what the hell is this?
And one thing I'll say as well, looking back on history, is that when teams finally break through, and I'm using 3 examples in when Chelsea broke through in 04-05, when Liverpool finally broke through in 1920, and this season in terms of how I think things are going, those teams, that 04-05 Chelsea team and that 1920 Liverpool team, ran away with it. And I think the fear for Arsenal is that if Man City are within touching distance and you play against them in April at the Etihad, because of what's happened, because of the PTSD of the last 3 seasons, things might turn. I think being far and away clear of everybody else and not really being in the proper title race just yet is good for Arsenal. Because like you say, you just focus on yourself. You're not really watching Man City results or Liverpool results. You're focusing on yourself. And I think that's the benefit of those teams reaped in 04-05 and in 1920. They were just so much better than everybody else that it wasn't a title race. And Liverpool were in a similar position, right? Our City just keep on getting the better of us, keep on getting the better of us. If you get into a title race with City, we're going to maybe not get over the line. But in that 1920 season, started like a house on fire, and they were out and away before COVID hit, and we had to go on a bit of a break. And I think this will benefit Arsenal. And so I understand what you're saying in terms of draw will be a satisfactory result. But if Arsenal go and win this, people will be writing obituaries about the 25-26 title race because it will seem insurmountable. Liverpool have lost however many games. City have lost their last 2 after being on a decent run in all competitions. That loss against Newcastle was a bad one. Loss in midweek was a bad one. I just don't see these teams consistently picking up wins or avoiding defeats in order to catch Arsenal. City have already lost 4 league games this season. Liverpool have lost 7. Chelsea have already lost 3. Arsenal have lost 1, which is par for the course for a team that's going to win the league.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's going to be a fascinating game on Sunday. Can't wait to see how it unfolds. And remember, we're going to have plenty of build up to the game on the podcast feed and on the channel. So make sure you are subscribed and all the rest of it. Check us out on Patreon for extra content. And of course, you get every single episode that we put out completely ad free, which I know to a lot of people is a big deal. Plus, you can become part of our Discord server, all for less than the price of a cup of coffee per month. The link is in the description. Kweku Afari, thank you so much, mate, for joining me. I know you're a super busy guy, so really appreciate it. Let people know where they can follow you, what you're up to, and how they can keep across your great work.
So you can follow me on all socials. It's Kweku_Afari. So KWEKU_Afari AFARI. That's on Instagram, on Twitter, on TikTok. Sometimes I post on there. And I'm also, Harry, I've been inspired. I've jumped on a few podcasts recently, and I've got my own YouTube channel that I haven't posted on in a year and a half. I'm going to start posting some videos. So keep an eye out for that again. Kweku Afari on YouTube.
Make sure you subscribe. I'll leave the link in the description as well. Get involved because Kweku, I love Kweku's takes. We have some great conversations, and we'll be back on. It'll be this afternoon by the time you're listening to this, from 3 till 5. I think we're on. That's
3
right.
till 5, yes.
3 till 5 on TalkSport 2. We'll be building up to a massive weekend, and I'm sure we'll be exploring that Chelsea-Arsenal fixture a little bit more as we get closer to it. And hopefully by then we'd have heard from the managers as well, which might provide us some insight into how things are going to go. Kweku, thank you very much. Thank you to every single one of you for tuning in. We will see you all on the next one. Until then, take care of yourselves and have a wonderful day. Up the Arsenal. Goodbye.
Chronicles of a Gooner. Like and subscribe. Chronicles of a Gooner. Harry Symeou time. Come on, you Gunners.